Hello, hello, welcome back. All right, so Geminis, Geminis, I feel like I want to use a different deck for you guys. We are going to go ahead and you guys didn't get a video style last week where I asked what makes Gemini attractive. So we're going to start out with a few cards for that and also ask who finds Gemini attractive right now. And then we're also going to merge it with this first series this week of just kind of taking a quick peek at. Kind of what's the positive manifestation and positive energy surrounding Gemini right now. All right, so first off, what makes Gemini attractive right now? We have the Judgment card, forgiveness. Gemini has a really big heart. They are able to like kind of revamp things, make peace with things, let things go, be able to start fresh. Three of Pentacles. They kind of are a big enough person to realize that everybody's learning in this lifetime. Now, obviously, there's going to be rules and foundations there. If somebody is coming in and they're doing all manner of bad things and they want to keep doing bad things, or some things are, we're not going to be forgiving. We're not letting certain people back in our lives, but we don't have to let somebody back in to still be able to let something go. I'm feeling like individuals who maybe have been immature in the past, those kinds of trespasses are the things that Gemini is really good at saying, hey, those are the only skill sets you had at that point in time. You can grow, you can become a better person, and I can release stuff. That seems to be the way Gemini approaches things. Very like matter of fact, very, better to move forward in life. And I think for Gemini's own like sanity, they are able to make peace with things. And that's very attractive. Somebody who doesn't like languish in, permanent wrath or anger. That's very big of Gemini to be able to let things go. And then with that Three of Pentacles, Gemini is terrific at working with people where they're at. They don't expect more out of people than what people can give, but they definitely are like, hey, if I see these great qualities in somebody, I might want to foster those great qualities and give them some support, or I just meet them where they're at. I don't expect somebody who's clearly not ready for a long-term relationship to suddenly, be ready for it. So I don't think Gemini picks characters and brings them into their life and says, okay, this is a role I want you to play, when clearly they're not ready for that role. I feel like Gemini is a great casting director of the people in their life. They work with many different people for many different reasons. If somebody is purely going to be a friend, their friend material, that's where Gemini keeps things. They don't put unrealistic expectations on people. Again, very attractive quality. And then we also have the King of Wands. King of Wands energy is going to be, Gemini may have a banging physique. They may have a really lovely, powerful persona. Gemini physically could be extremely attractive. They, in particular, could have beautiful eyes because this is Horus, the falcon-headed god. And the eye of Horus, of course, is a universally known symbol of protections. Gemini could be a really powerful protector. They could be somebody that people naturally feel either safe around, or they know that Gemini's got a boldness to them, like they're a protector of those that they love. But also, physically, this is our most attractive king. Now, it doesn't matter if Gemini is a masculine or a feminine. Gemini may have like a really gorgeous nose as well. They could have, it's just all the attributes of the bird. There's something like animalistic and free and powerful and wild and ferocious, but also loving and protective. And very, very, I do feel like Gemini operates in a way where other people know that they're powerful, but they're powerful and they're kind at the same time. I feel like there's a lot of people that would like Gemini to be their lover. Like who wouldn't want somebody like that, right? But very, very physically attractive to others. It doesn't, and it's whatever physique they have. Maybe Gemini really hits the gym a ton. Doesn't have to be. It could just be the persona, right? When we're talking about somebody who has those attributes that I've just mentioned, the physical component of it is so, it's not even secondary. It's like, the last thing on the list. The real energy that makes our character attractive is the way they operate. It's the way they behave. It's their aura. It's their personality. It's their charisma. And that makes them also in turn very physically attractive. to, I would say, to almost everybody. We have the Ace of Wands. And I think the other thing that makes Gemini really attractive, at least right now during this quarter, is they seem to be very passionate. This could be a time where Gemini is very sensual. This could also be a time when Gemini is really productive, like creatively. They could be somebody who's like visibly creative and productive also. Like a talent could be coming to the forefront. Gemini could be doing something that is like on display. And this could be anything. This could be Gemini's reached a fitness level at the gym, and other people are like, wow, that's that they're like a freaking machine. That's amazing. Or this could be Gemini in the workplace is like doing something where they're very skilled. They're like the best person on the sales team, and that's really attractive. Or this could be somebody in, the neighborhood. Gemini's out there, redecorating the outside of their house, their yard, landscaping, and that's really attractive. Like, wow, that person's so talented. Look at what they can do. It just feels like there is a talent on display, and it has to do with their creativity and their charisma. And it's coming across again very sensual. We actually have a couple of jaguars, panthers, power animals all over this. So again, super attractive. Okay, I'm going to use my duplicate deck to ask who is attracted to Gemini. So let's take a look. Who is attracted to Gemini right now? Six of Swords, someone who perhaps has moved on from a previous connection, someone who's got a certain amount of freedom in their life. Ooh, Tower sideways. Many things in their life have collapsed, including their ego, but it almost feels like a voluntary collapse or leaving of something. They could have been in a long-term commitment and they have separated. They have, on their own motive, they said, this is not right for me. I'm leaving this. This could be somebody who previously worked with Gemini and they've quit a job, but there's this attraction that they have for Gemini. God, Ten of Swords. We keep seeing that they have ended some previous thing in their life. I'm going to say it was a previous connection, because here they feel very heroic about this. They were in a very confined space, a very difficult space, a very probably unhappy situation. And they might have been staying like, I'm going to not give up this battle. They could have been like, well, I'm in the process of a divorce, but it's going to take 10 years because we're both fighting. And instead they're like, what am I doing? Drop the ego, gain your independence, pay whatever you have to pay, but let this thing end. So whoever finds Gemini attractive right now, they have recently gone through a massive ending in their life. They could be an Aries, a Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. What do they like about Gemini right now? The Hermit. So this is the wounded healer. This is somebody who although they have not come forward to Gemini yet, not at this point in the story, they love something about how Gemini can kind of walk their own path in life. They might have been very inspired by this. Gemini could be quite the philosopher. They could be somebody they've watched Gemini be single and they really admire how Gemini owns their own life. And that is something that they wanted to do too, because they met Gemini. So they're attracted to Gemini for Gemini's like singleness, their aloofness, their ability to live their own life on their own terms. Nine of Cups, but man, Gemini would also be their wish come true. They want to live like Gemini does. Now, maybe they've romanticized Gemini's life just a smidge, but they think Gemini lives the good life. They want to do that with Gemini. Gemini would be their wish come true. But be a part of Gemini's like higher vibrational lifestyle. That's after. Well, I like the fact that they seem to really appreciate and admire our Gemini. All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the other component of this story, which is I just kind of want to know what's the good stuff coming into Gemini's life right now because of their own high vibrational state. What are they manifesting? What kinds of things are Gemini like calling into their life? Eight of Cups in the reverse. Gemini has things from the past coming back in. Things that are positive, things that maybe, and I mean, we do have love all over this, right? We've got all these paired creatures. We've got the swans, which mate for life. We've got the lovebirds back there. We've got the butterflies together. We've got, the dragonfly couple. I have to say love is coming into Gemini's life. And that could be what we've already talked about. That could be somebody who is, this feels like something that was never over. With the Ace of Pentacles in the reverse, it says, the thing that Gemini is like vibrationally like attracting into their life is a continuing story. I'm hearing that song from that film, The Never Ending Story. We have a Five of Swords, but the Wheel of Fortune. Boy, this feels very much like it fits with the first two decks we pulled from. Everything here says, I think Gemini they are attracting something back into their life that has always wanted to be theirs. This is, it was all in divine timing. Maybe Gemini met the love of their life, and the love of their life sadly had, at the point Gemini met them, it was like, dang, I didn't know you existed until now that I'm, 33 and I'm meeting you. But unfortunately, you got married to somebody when you were 22 and you're in a relationship. And it almost feels like it's that situation, like someone who Gemini met at we're not going to say the wrong point in time, because they were in a very contradictory, conflicting, and possibly quite dismal connection, but that had to end first. So it was all about the divine timing. But the thing that's coming back into Gemini's life is a storyline. Like I'm just feeling like this could be someone that Gemini hasn't seen or spoken to in like 8 months, because they had to go through some significant changes. 5 is a number of change. And, to go from the Five of Swords to the Six of Swords, that would be the next card in the sequence. It would be somebody who finally leaves a really painful relationship to then gravitate toward Gemini, because now it's the right time. Has ended, but then a cycle for Gemini that never really got off the ground, but nor did it end. That just seems like it's finally clicking into place. Something that was meant to be Gemini's did not pass them by at all. In fact, it was, sometimes we see something that we like or that we want, but it'll be a couple of years down the road before it becomes ours. And that we could say that about a career path. We could say that about success. Sometimes we start in an industry and we're like, I really want to be known for this or that, but it takes us, 6 years of, growing our talent, our skill set before we finally reach that pinnacle that we thought, 6 years earlier, I want to do this and I want to be this good at it. Or in this case, there seems to be a love story. This could be coupled though with like a geographical location also. It could be that Gemini has multiple changes shifting into their life. They physically could be returning to a previous plan, like a career path. Like, I've always wanted to do this, but I had to take the long way around. I had to, before I could become a business owner in this one particular field, I knew I should go work for other people first, learn what I could from their business models, get some on-the-job training, because I would see what works and what doesn't, what my likes and dislikes are, and then it would help me when I'm ready to open up my own business. But that was always the plan. I was always going to do this, but I needed to first pick up some skills. So it just feels like the positive vibration, the positive manifestation that Gemini has been putting out was, I know that these things that I want will become mine when the time is right. My wishes, my dreams, my hopes, those will all fall into place. If Gemini has wanted to live in a certain geographical area, same thing. They may have had to move away for a period before they could move back and then like maybe buy a home. It's somebody is building their Taj Mahal. This feels very much like love, business, and possibly where they live. But all these things are finally coming back around because the timing is right. Now, this could be a crescendo of everything happening seemingly all at once. Gemini could finally get the opportunity to move back to a place that they've wanted to. They found the job, or they're starting the business that they want to, and they have this lover that is single and is able to now really pursue something with Gemini. I don't even feel like this is somebody that Gemini had conflict with. I think Gemini walked away from this person perhaps because they were still dealing with endings in their own life. Yeah, we've got blockages are being released, and this is all because of Gemini's frame of mind. It begins with Gemini trusting in the universal plan. What is meant to be mine will not pass me by. Even if many other little things have to click into place first, I trust that what my heart really wants, what is in my greatest and highest good, my goals, my wishes, my dreams, those things will be mine. Even though there can be some delays before, having that fulfillment. But what's very interesting is that there's really no more delays for like any of it. This feels like this is a period of abundance in Gemini's life. So certainly let's ask the universe, what is the best advice for Gemini right now, since we have a lot of abundance coming in for them. Nine of Swords sideways, for Gemini to manage any stress that comes into their life, because change, even good change, can bring stress, and there's definitely change, right? The Wheel of Fortune promises change. Six of Wands. Every time Gemini starts to get a little stressed, or they're not sleeping well, or they're wondering about, what to do with these positive changes, or are more changes on the horizon, it says, hang on now. Let's take a look. What kinds of things has Gemini wanted, and how many of those are starting to show up? Remember to celebrate the positives instead of worrying about, but what about the other things I want? Or how will even these positive things change my life? This says just to focus on the fact that things that Gemini has wanted are starting to take shape in their life, and stay in the celebratory energy. Gemini's got all the skills that they need to use these new, we'll say, resources, opportunities to their greatest advantage, because this is all tailor-made for Gemini, because it's all stuff they already wanted. They're not going to have any real difficulties in adapting to these shifts and changes. If somebody says, I wanted to move back to the town that I was originally raised in. I've wanted to do that for a long time. I'm finally doing it, but oh man, even though it's happy, gosh, will it all work out? This says, hang on, don't even stress about will it work out. Gemini's wanted to do this for a long time. All the puzzle pieces will fit together. There will be a way that clicks, because this is what Gemini tailor-made for themselves. So it will come together. That's what this says. There's a lot of kind of trust the process thing. But anyway, I'm going to leave this here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Bye, guys.